Good morning, everybody. Pastor Nate Borman here, one of the pastors at Mount Lebanon Lutheran Church, here for a devotional thought. We are making our way through the book of Numbers right now. We're going to look at chapters 3, 4, and 5, or at least we'll bring them into consideration today. And we're still in the part of Numbers. Numbers does have some narrative accounts, some stories of God's people and how God interacted with his people, how his people interacted with him. We definitely have some of those stories going on, some of those accounts going on in the book of Numbers. But right now we're still in God is telling his people exactly how to run and how to march and how to live and how to be a community. So in chapters 3, 4, and 5, God has some very specific instructions for the Levites. Remember, the Levites were the tribe of Israel that God set apart for work in the tabernacle, for taking care of the tabernacle. They were the ones, a specific family within the Levites, the family of Aaron. They were set apart to be the priests. So they were the ones who really did the sacrificing, who went into the most holy place. They were the ones who did, you could say, the most crucial and cornerstone work of the priesthood. But there was another group, three other families, the families of Kohath, Gershon, and Merari, and they also had some really important work and some really important jobs in the family. And there's two things I want you to notice. One is that they were redeemed. They were redeemed by the Lord for this work. So in other words, God set them apart and redeemed them for himself. God made the Levites, and specifically in these chapters, the tribes, the families of Gershon, Kohath, and Merari, he called them, you're my people, you're my special people, and I have special work for you to do. So the first thing I want you to see is that they were redeemed for this work. They were set apart by God for this work. In his tabernacle, in their lives, they were set apart for this. That's the first thing. They were redeemed for this work. And secondly, this is the other thing, God had very specific work for them to do. You read through chapters 3, chapter 4, chapter 5 of Numbers, and what I want you to see is that God said, I want you, family of Kohath, the Kohathites, I want you to do this work. He had very specific work for them to do. And the same thing for the family of Gershon. I have very specific work for you to do. The same thing with the family of Merari. I have very specific work for you to do. See, God had redeemed them and made them his own people. I'm the Lord, you're my people, you belong to me, and now I have very special work for you to do, very specific work for you to do. And the thing I would have you reflect on today, tomorrow, Sunday, over the weekend is really this very simple thing. God has also redeemed you. God has also redeemed you. By the blood of his son Jesus, he's redeemed you. He's made you his very own child. You belong to him. God has also redeemed you. And so what does this mean? That God also has a very specific part for you to play. And maybe it's not as specific as I want you to carry the tent of the tabernacle. I want you to carry the leather that goes over it. I want you to carry the poles for the tabernacle. Maybe it's not that specific, but I want to be clear. God has given you very specific work to do. Right? In your family, he's giving you specific work to do. Like, I'm a dad, so my job is to be a dad. I'm a husband, my work is to be a husband. I'm a pastor, my work is to be a husband. God has called me to very specific work in my life. The same thing for you. God has called you to very specific work in your life. Whether you're married or not, whether you're a child or an adult or retiree, whether you punch in or you don't punch in, whether you get salary or you don't get paid at all, God has given you very specific work to do, right? You are redeemed by God. You belong to him. And this means that God has given you work to do for him in this world. It doesn't mean that you're a missionary. It doesn't mean necessarily that you work for the church, right? That's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. But God, in your life, right? Your life is different than my life. God's calling on my life is different than his calling on your life. So God has given you work to do in your life to serve him, to serve other people. And the reason I'm starting to talk about work is because we're going to talk about work this weekend. We're going to finish off chapter 2 of Ecclesiastes this weekend, starting at about verse 17. And we're going to talk about work. And we're going to talk about How does work? Why is work sometimes so meaningless? Why does it sometimes feel like? Why is it sometimes a daily grind? And then we're going to take the next step and ask the next question and say, well, why is that? And how do I regain meaning and purpose and joy in my work? Right? So God's redeemed us. He's given us work to do, and that work is meaningful. So we're going to talk about that this week on Sunday, but I want you just to think about those two things today. God has redeemed you and made you his, and that means he has specific work for you to do. Have a great day, everybody. The Lord be with you all and grant you his peace.